Despite a busy schedule of stuffing their faces with post-Christmas delights and or getting COVID, Megan and Konrad managed to squeeze one more canned cocktail into 2023 with an end-of-year roundup. But before that, why are Germany's doctors on strike? Does the CDU really want to send asylum seekers to Rwanda? Will 2024 be slightly less depressing? All these questions resolved, or at least ranted about, in this week's show. Happy New Year!
In Berlin's heart, where news is unveiled, Megan and Konrad with German tales. The German news, it's tough to bear, but with mega cans, they're ready to head Konrad, daily news at hand. Megan feels to spare time to crack those cans. With each sip she takes, the mag is her shield. But will it last the news? 'Cause that was the deal.
Hello everybody, it's time for Megan's Megacan. And it's making me feel strange because it's reminding me of the pandemic, but we're doing this virtually through the wonders of the internet and technology. But I'm still here, not in Berlin though. I'm in Glasgow, but with Konrad Werner. Hello, Konrad.
Hello. I'm in Berlin though.
You are. You're in your house. I can see you, and it's comforting.
Yeah.
It reminds me of how comforted I was during the pandemic to talk to you about the news when everything else was very scary.
Yeah. It's like the old days. Did you have a nice Christmas?
I've had a lovely Christmas, but I don't want to talk about it too much because I know that you've been stuck in the house with coronavirus.
Yeah, I've had an even more corona throwback experience.
I know.
I actually did have the coronavirus.
The novel coronavirus. Is it still novel?
Until it's not that novel, is it?
No.
Anymore. It's quite old hat now.
Yeah.
But I had my second bout starting a few days before Christmas and ending on Boxing Day. I tested negative on Boxing Day, which was yesterday. So I've not actually had any Christmas at all, except I haven't been outside. So it's in a way it was like Christmas because I didn't have to do anything and I just watched telly.
Yeah.
And ate chocolate, but it wasn't Christmas in the sense that, there wasn't any the normal family stuff or anything. We're doing all that. We've delayed it all. We're going to do it like Russian style.
Yeah.
Or Orthodox style.
That sounds good.
But we're here today to do our what are we going to do first? We're going to do our end of year roundup. This will be the last Megacan of 2023. We should give our listeners something special.
Yes. But I think, did you want to tell me a bit about the news? And then...
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll start with the news. What are you drinking?
Oh, my days. Allow me to... I'm so excited about this. So, I kind of knew about these before. But these are... I don't know if they're Scottish, but they're really mini... But they're little cocktails in a can, and they're fancy as fuck, right? This is a Negroni. You can get all your kinds of cocktails. You can get like a freezer margarita, a martini. My boyfriend had a really good old-fashioned at Christmas. Look how tinsy they are. 100 mils only, but I'm not cross that it's 100 mils because 21.8%. Woo!
Oh, brilliant. It's double the whack in half the size.
Yeah.
What do you say? I don't know.
I'm
that's amazing.
Interested.
Where did you get that from?
You can get them in Scotland. Let me see. Where single serve.
Negroni.
A pocket Negroni, yes. And it's a little picture of a Negroni going crazy on the thing. It's so cool. Hang on.
What is a Negroni? I didn't...
Oh, a Negroni's my favourite cocktail. It's gin, Campari, and red vermouth. It is. Right. It's very bitter, but it's delicious.
I'm drinking a Jack Daniel's and Coke that I found at the back of my fridge, which I think has been there for about 3 years.
It'll
It's
still
one
be
of
fine.
It was my stash of emergency megas.
And
that I
this is
had.
the emergency.
And now finally the emergency has arrived. I've still got 2 more in my emergency mega can stash.
It's
in the
almost
back
a
of my fridge.
relief when the emergency arrives.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But you may look
That's
back
what
on this
my-
moment and think that wasn't really the emergency. Like, I look back on about 6 weeks into lockdown, the first one, and thought, I need to drink this plum wine that I've had in my house for like 4 years. This is the emergency. That was not the
festive-
emergency.
The festive blue bowls.
Oh, God,
has
yeah.
been on the sideboard 20 years. Okay, cheers.
Let's go. Cheers.
Enjoy your Negroni. Okay,
Oh, God.
there you go. Oh yeah, tastes good as new.
Yeah, that is absolutely delicious. It's just a really good Negroni in a can. And you know how much I love drinking out of cans.
Yeah. Okay.
But you can also
Well,
pour it over
Merry
ice
Christmas.
with the thing. Merry Christmas indeed.
This is the does Christmas still last 12 days? Is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Because this is only the 3rd day.
I love this time. Between the years, they call it in Germany. You taught me that, I think.
Yeah, it's the perfect description. It's it's really a German phrase that really encapsulates this time.
It does.
Because it is between the years. It's sort of a liminal space in
Yeah.
time. If that makes any sense.
If you're
It's a
doing it
corridor.
right, you should have
Yeah.
no idea what day it is, what day of the week it is. You should have a vague idea when you have to get festive again for New Year's, but other than that, none. No
Okay.
clue.
Well,
All right.
do you know who do know what day it is this week? I've got to start the segue into the podcast proper.
Oh, God.
Or
It's
did you want to do more
Christmas.
chit chat?
Don't make me do the podcast. Okay, off you go. Yes.
Have you got like cookies or something? Are you eating anything?
No, but I can put a Santa hat on. Wait, because I've just seen one on the floor. Good.
There we go.
There you go. There's
Perfect.
festiveness for you.
Yeah. So during my illness, I had to go to the emergency apotheker on Christmas Day to get some more corona tests. And one thing they told me there was they would only allow me to buy 5 corona tests because they said they're running out of them, and there is a spike in coronavirus cases apparently
Wow.
in Germany. I think everywhere, but also in Germany, and flu cases at the same time.
Ooh. I mean, it is the
And,
season.
And this is the week that the doctors of Berlin and several other German cities, including Frankfurt, Bremen, all over the country really, thousands of doctors' practices are shut this week
Ooh.
because they have gone on strike. And this has caused, in your absence, this has caused a furore
I can imagine.
amongst Karl Lauterbach, who you remember is our health minister.
I
He
do.
used to be very... Yeah, well, he has said he's extremely disappointed that the doctors have decided to go on strike in this week of all weeks where a lot of people are getting sick. And also, I spoke today to the head of the Patients' Interests Association. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of that? This just it doesn't really matter. But they also said that this is a strike that only harms the most vulnerable in society. But and especially people in rural areas, because it's very hard for them to get to a doctor. But the doctors say it is for our own good, or it's in the interests of the patients in the long run, because they have been under increasing pressure, financial pressure, over bureaucratization. They've had no recompense, unlike the hospitals. They've had no extra money from the state to cover the aftermath of the coronavirus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So they are really pissed off. The doctors are very pissed off, and they've decided to go on strike, and I guess to cause a massive effect, and they're doing it this week. It's a 3-day strike, but it will mean that because Monday is also a holiday, the doctors' practices won't be open until Tuesday.
Oh.
And obviously this might affect certain people. I think there are still some emergency services available, but they are also like on call, and doctors are still on call if something really bad happens. But that is still a lot of pressure on the health system.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a how do you feel about the German healthcare system? Do you think it's compared to?
Ooh, this is it.
How do you feel about going to doctors? How do you feel? How's your experience of going to doctors in Germany?
I mean, I come from the UK, so in some ways, really, really good. As in, if I want to go and see a GP, my GP, I walk 5 minutes from my house and sit in a waiting room and see him next day, often without an appointment.
And that is quite unusual.
Yeah.
And that is not every country has that.
No.
And the UK is often held up. And in fact, in the press release of these strikers, they brought up the fact that one thing about the German healthcare system that is really good is that the doctors are normally available for and you can go to any doctor. You can just bring your health insurance card. And you should be able to go to any doctor in the city. You can go and see specialists fairly quickly. And they were saying that this is a thing that we should try and preserve.
Yeah.
And they are accusing Karl Lauterbach of not preserving it by not looking after their interests and making things increasingly difficult. And
this is like a GP.
Yeah.
Is this a GP strike or is this all non-hospital medicine? Do you know?
Yeah, more non-hospital medicine. So it's 22 different doctors' associations have joined the strike. So including GPs, but also specialists of all kinds, and opticians even. Some opticians have also joined it. And and people have been kicking up, and there's quite a lot going on in Germany at the moment. Last week we had the farmers came out on the streets of Berlin.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that as I was vacating the country. God, are people not aware that they're just supposed to be in like soft pants and drinking with every meal? And the meal is always the same. We are still, if anything, we seem to have more leftovers than when we started this affair. Like, it's insane how much food there is in this house. But I think my problems with the German healthcare system are purely patriarchy based, in that they don't cover sexual health properly and things like that. But that's a different podcast episode for a different day. Other than that, I would, and obviously bedside manner sometimes, and the system is very confusing if you're not aware of, if you're used to a more centralized system. But I mean, I can go and see a specialist like on the day. It's wild how good it is. I got a same day MRI once.
Oh, right. Yeah, that is pretty good.
Which is unusual, but you would usually not have to wait more than like 2 weeks or something. And if you have any relatives working on or relying on the NHS, that's not the case here.
So, and also apparently the bureaucracy is a massive problem for doctors. They're very angry about the bureaucracy. They're saying that they're spending more and more time filling in forms that they have to send to the health insurers. And the doctor I spoke to today, he said what he does now and what he's been doing for a few years is ignoring any letter from the health insurance companies, and unless they send a reminder. And then he replies to the reminders, because he says that there are just so many letters that are useless. It's only if they send a reminder that he thinks that maybe it is important. But and then sometimes I read a report about doctors have to fill in forms to get another form. So they have to fill in a form that they have to send to the health insurers to get another form, and they're just really generally annoyed about all these things. And they say that the services that they provide, only 80% of them are covered by the health insurance companies, and the rest of the work they basically do for free in these doctors' practices. And they're and they're struggling to pay all their workers, all their staff, and they say that more and more doctors are retiring early because they can't be bothered to deal with it anymore. And so they're going to be, in the long run, they say there's going to be fewer doctors' practices in Germany, and it's all Karl Lauterbach's fault. His fault and the health insurance company's fault.
Oh.
So that's why they're on strike this week. So
Oh dear.
Quite a lot. That's all happening.
Oof.
Yeah.
Don't really know how to think. So they want more money, is it?
Yeah, I think they want more money and like a fairer. They want a fairer shake of the stick from the health insurance companies, so that they
shake
can
of the stick.
Well,
Yeah,
they want
so-
to like the budget. You know, they want the budgets that they get sent from the health insurance companies to cover their actual work and not just the work that the health insurance companies tell them that they're doing.
Okay.
You know?
Because this is a sort of weird thing in Germany that I don't fully understand, in that there is universal health care. You have to have health insurance, but there's different providers, but they are state. You can also have private health insurance, which is a separate thing, but they've got these big, huge state insurers.
Yeah, I'm not equipped to explain all this at the moment.
Yeah.
But yes.
But
Essentially,
presumably-
yes, that is what it is. You have to, if you have a job, you have to have health insurance. You can't
Yeah.
not have health insurance if
Yeah.
you have a job. But you can choose whether you have state or private health insurance, and your employer pays some of it.
Yeah.
But
And it's a lot.
it is a lot. I mean, I pay quite a lot. Yeah,
And-
it is quite a lot, but it is also, I think you do get a pretty good service. And
Yeah.
I've started to learn. The older I get, I've started to get more tests and stuff for, that I know.
Yeah.
The older you get, the more you realise what you can get from the doctor, like what tests
Yeah.
and stuff you can get. So I go and get like a cardio thing done every year now, and it gets paid for by my health insurer.
Yeah.
Which, like 10 years ago, I never would have thought of doing that. But now I'm just like, well, hang on, I've been paying all this money, I might as well get something for it. But that's
Exactly.
probably not any of the news. That's just me getting old,
And
having deeper into middle age.
exactly.
As I am.
And that's fine. And that is why we pay health insurance premiums. But why are people annoyed with Lauterbach then? They're saying he's not doing... So he's the health minister, and he came to power shortly after Corona, because during Corona he was kind of like this SPD politician who was also a doctor, and was kind of like interviewed a lot, because all everyone wanted to talk about was coronavirus, obviously. And then he got into the cabinet then. Is it the cabinet? The government. So, full disclosure, we're now doing this part of the episode. Again, there's a little bit of an issue with recording on my end. We're very sorry. But it does mean that I get to have another mega can, which is not actually mega can. It's Black Forest gin and tonic, perfectly mixed, 5%. Konrad is being absented from this because he's still recuperating.
Well, we'll see how I go. I'll see how
We
far
do
I
have
get.
to do some fairly grim bits of news. So, to sum up, the doctors are on strike. They're very angry with Karl Lauterbach, who is our current health minister, who was prominent during the pandemic as a kind of talking head of the SPD, but also a medic. But now he's in the bin. And as far as doctors are concerned, they want more from him. They keep saying, we keep meeting.
Yeah, there.
And this is mainly me just summarising very quickly what I can remember if you told me last.
Yeah. Oh, there.
Yeah, that's
They're
grand.
just angry.
They're like, stop making us have summits with you. I can imagine that it's like nothing more annoying than like leadership wanting to show you that they're open for change by just making you explain what the problem is over and over and over again, and them going, we're listening, and then nothing fucking happens. It's infuriating.
And then nothing happens, and then the doctors get really angry, and they have no patience, and they can't treat them all. Anyway, I'm eating in lieu of the rest of this this delicious mega can that I had. I'm having a festive Florentina.
Lovely. I'm having a Schwarz. It's actually a Black Forest gin and tonic. I think this probably comes from Lidl because the writing is in German. And let's see. It's only 5% though because it's from the UK, so that's fine.
It's a massive can.
Yeah, it's a 330 mils, but in a tall can, which I don't usually like. But this one's quite nice.
A slim one.
Yeah. All right. So
More news.
I don't.
Can you remember
it was
Jens
so
Spahn?
depressing the last time. I can't believe we're having to do this again. But I have brought in some Christmas cake and Stilton. So there we go.
To get you There's nothing more Christmassy than Stilton.
Oh,
I always have Stilton at Christmas as well.
let's just talk
Anyway.
about what we're eating. Let's just go into our neighbouring rooms, because I know there's food in all of them, and just like feast. Okay, what's next? What do we have to talk
Right.
about?
So, what can you remember about Jens Spahn?
Oh, God. He looks like a cartoon character that I cannot put my finger on. And it's taken all of the pandemic and now. He has reminded me of somebody, and I don't know who it is. It might be Wario from Mario Brothers, but I'm not sure. He was our health minister, CDU.
Yeah, he's got kind of a square head.
Yeah, and square glasses.
Yeah, so he does look a bit like a cartoon character. But anyway, he pops up in the news again.
Wow,
for the
he's been
first time
quiet
in
for a
ages.
while, yeah.
He's been quiet. At the moment, he is nothing really at the moment. All he is a CDU MP, and he is a member of the CDU Presidium, which is sort of the leading council of the CDU. Have you ever seen The Dark Crystal?
No.
Sort of, that's how I imagine them. Oh, okay. This sort of Skeksis, this sort of dark, these sort of hooded raven-like creatures.
Oh.
That evil raven-like creatures that.
Okay.
Anyway, that is the CDU Presidium.
Nice.
And they came up with their Grundsatzplan for how they're going to turn the country around a couple of weeks ago.
Fantastic.
And one of the
they could have
things
fucking
said,
done that in the last 16 years, lads. You had your chance.
So they've come up with this Grundsatz, the basic principles of how they're going to change the country for the better. And one of the things on that plan was third country asylum procedures.
No.
You know, like
Yeah.
sending people to other countries when you can't be bothered to deal with other people, their asylum applications anymore. You send them to other countries. And they didn't mention a particular country in the Grundsatz plan, but someone came up with a bright idea of asking Jens Spahn which countries were meant. And he said, well, I heard Rwanda is taking people. Now, if you're from the UK, you'll know that the British government has signed a deal with Rwanda to deal with asylum seekers, which has so far cost the country, I believe I read the figure of £250 million, and not a single asylum seeker has been sent to Rwanda yet, because the UK Supreme Court said that it was illegal. And
Yeah. £250 million on all of our dignity and part of our souls, I think, as like UK citizens, because it's fucking dark.
so anyway, so the CDU brought this up again, specifically Jens Spahn, and now they're thinking of they want to do third party whatever. I mean, it's not gonna. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna work it, because it's already been deemed illegal by the UK Supreme Court, because apparently the reasoning they gave was that there was no guarantee that the asylum seekers would be treated fairly by the Rwandan asylum system.
No.
And I mean, Suella Braverman's plan was just to give Rwanda loads of money to build, blocks of flats, and then say, well, you deal with them. You can just let them all live there. There's the only other. So yeah.
I think this is it. Like as I was saying when we recorded this a few minutes ago. Like the one thing that kind of up until perhaps the last 2 months that gets me through with listening to doing like German politics commentary is like, well, at least it's not as bad as the disgusting levels of discourse in the UK currently, where like top government officials are talking about just like shipping asylum seekers off to some inevitably not very nice country. That's not really any shade on Rwanda or the Rwandan people. It's more nothing good can come of this deal forged in with no.
Well, I mean, Rwanda is a problematic country anyway, because it does have a dictatorship, and the reason why the UK chose Rwanda was partly because Rwanda said they are willing to do this, to take this money, but also because Israel has already signed such a deal, which is but about 10 years ago, and has also been sending basically outsourcing asylum procedures.
You've somehow made this worse on the second telling. That wasn't in the first recording, and that's even worse.
So they also, because Israel also gets asylum seekers from East Africa, and they have also been trying to send them to Rwanda, and it's not clear how it will legally work, and the other precedent for it is Italy, which has a deal with Albania. Italy has recently signed a deal with Albania, which would mean that asylum seekers who are picked up in international waters, so they've not yet actually arrived, so it's still a bit different from the UK deal. They're people who have not yet officially arrived in Italy. They would be picked up in international waters and taken straight around the Adriatic Sea to Albania to have the asylum process. But even that is legally not clear, because Italy says that this will happen still under EU law, so it's not, they don't have to, don't worry, the human rights will be protected, because we are going to send our own officials over there, and our own officials have to abide by EU law, so it's all be legal, and even the failed asylum seekers would first have to be sent back to Italy to be deported from there. I mean, you have to kind of question what's the point of it then at some point, but they would say that it's legal because of that. The EU says how can the EU has been asked about this, and the EU says we are not sure if this makes any sense, because how can EU law apply to a country that is not in the EU? But anyway, that's all still up in the air, and it's also logistically really complicated, because it takes a while for these ships to go all the way around Italy to Albania, and how would you organise that? And if they're going back and forth all the time, there won't be that many ships to pick people up. And anyway, it's a bit of a mess. It hasn't, all the details haven't been hashed out. The UK Supreme Court has basically said this is the way that the UK government has organised this is illegal, but it would theoretically be possible if you can guarantee that human rights would be respected and that the asylum system in Rwanda is fair. But well,
that's quite a big ask
of
a dictatorship, I would imagine, which has no real interest other than the financial.
Yeah, but I mean, in the long run, what they're hoping is that this will discourage people from taking dangerous journeys across the Mediterranean. So they're hoping that it will reduce the deaths in the Mediterranean. That's the idea. But I don't. No one knows.
It won't. It will just make the deaths further away and more, or it might stop people. I don't know. I don't think it will. And I think this is like a really horrifying development in the discourse that we have around immigration in Europe, where our response there are people drowning in the Mediterranean close to our shores, and it is, how do we make sure that they don't drown closer to our shores? How do we make sure that this suffering happens further away?
There is a kind of solution in place that is being run by the UN. The UN has a kind of a resettlement program in place where it has asylum procedures in various refugee camps, like in Jordan, and I believe in sub-Saharan Africa they have refugee camps there, and you can apply for asylum, and you can apply for, and if you're successful you get resettlement status. But the problem is they have about 2 million people on the books. I believe in 2023 I read 2 million people on the books who had successfully won asylum, but only managed to resettle about 30,000, like something in the five figures of people, because no country wants to take them in. No country wants to, some people have been resettled that way, and that would be like a humane solution. It would not involve dangerous crossings across the Mediterranean. But the problem is no country is willing to take in that many people. And there's about 2 million people apparently on the UN program. So there is like a solution there, but it's also it's politics, isn't it? It's like politics. No one cares. No one wants to do these things.
And every time immigration
the EU,
becomes a talking point, then it's a policy point on all European Union members now. Like, I was reading that Ireland kind of recently, it hasn't really had like immigration, like parties didn't have that as part of they didn't have to have a stance on immigration as part of their thing, but even that's fucking happening now. So like the country that launched 1,000 million immigrants into the world is now also given themselves got up on their high horse and be like, oh, not my country. And I think it's
the EU,
gross.
The EU,
And we're just determined to get this wrong repeatedly and show like shocking, like, I don't know, like we've seen kids literally washed up on beaches drowned because their parents, and this is the thing, there's such levels of dehumanization that has to happen there, so much othering. But I think it's also, we just have this like fucked way of, like a very stuck way of thinking about like immigration and like, oh, well, we have to control immigration, rather than looking at, well, how do we actually improve immigration and make it a more successful process? Because like Germany, fucking hell, we need people. It's not like Germany's like, oh no, sorry, all the positions are filled and no one is aging and everyone's having 1 million children. So it's all fine. No one will have to pay for these baby boomers to live until their 80s. No, all fine. Thank you very much. Like, where do we think we're getting people from? But at the moment, exactly. That's not fashionable.
I think we need more people. I think if any country needs more immigrants, it's Germany. If you ask me, but controversial opinion.
It's not a controversial opinion. That's like basically a fact, because we cannot afford the retirement. And they're all going to have big retirement plans because it's fucking Germany. And we love shit like that. Someone's going to have to pay those massive taxes. Get them in. They won't even give them a vote. It'll be great. The boomers can continue to vote and control the political climate for the people paying their pension.
I am very quietly eating a Florentina. I hope this isn't
good?
Being picked
My
up
Christmas
by the
cake
microphone.
at Stilton is absolutely, you definitely got some of that on the mic. I'm sorry. All right, so I'm depressed. Do you want to do a roundup of 2023?
I ruined the news. Ruined Christmas.
You didn't. You didn't do anything. It wasn't your fault. This is not your fault. Do you know what I will say, which is good news? So I've seen these cans in Lidl. I'm interested in Germany if they're actually 10% or if they're 5% sort of überall. But I've always been a bit wary because I don't love off-branded megas because they're usually disgusting. But this Black Forest gin and tonic is very pleasant from Lidl.
Oh, good.
So you can go and get that. And I'd be interested to see what percentage it is in Germany. But it's refreshing.
We'll make a note and do a field trip.
Yeah, that's true.
To German Lidl. I have to say, Black Forest does not inspire me with confidence, because Black Forest is more, I always think of the gatto.
You don't like a Black Forest gatto? I've definitely heard of Black Forest gin.
I do like it, but not. Is that a thing, Black Forest gin?
I think I've heard of it, like within Germany.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Let's round up this year for the second time, Konrad.
Okay.
Let's go. So
what happened? It's also what were the main things that happened?
2023, when I really think about it, was the year finally when it became undeniably clear to me the three great sort of myths of Germany, of this country that I have loved and made my home for many years, the scales have finally fallen from my eyes, and I'm like, what is this? What are we doing here? So one myth, you come from the UK like me, you grew up in Northern Ireland, you have ideas about what Germany is, and one of those things is Germany is kind of like much more developed in terms of climate responsibility. But we fucked that this year, didn't we? Konrad, do you want to quickly remind, in a thing, we started off the year talking about Lützerath.
Yeah, a little village in the coal fields of the West, which had to be razed to the ground and dug up and turned into a massive open pit coal mine.
Yep.
Which is like the worst kind of coal mines, because not only is it underground.
The worst kind of coal, yes.
Because it's not only the worst kind of coal, because it's the inefficient kind, the brown coal is more inefficient, but also it's the worst kind because you have to actually dig up the earth. You can't just dig a tunnel. You gotta tear up the earth and turn it into a moonscape of barren death, essentially, with huge machines. And our Green Party climate minister decided this would have to be done, Robert Habeck, earlier this year, because of the war in Ukraine, amongst other things.
Yep. Well done.
And that they would have to
So
there were a lot of protests, a lot of riot police getting stuck in the mud.
Which was the only good thing about the story.
Yeah, there was some amusing images of riot police being taunted by a man dressed as a monk.
Yeah, look it up on YouTube, actually.
Yeah. Search
Lützerath Munch.
Search the Lützerath monk riot police, and that will brighten your day.
But what won't brighten
your day? So there was that.
There's that, yes. Anything else we did to ruin my hopes for a greener Germany? Habeck brought in a heating plan, didn't he? Yeah, what happened there?
Yeah, but that was that was like a very basic law saying that we have to modernize the building heating systems on all new buildings.
Just all the new ones. We didn't have to do anything. Anything where you're already living, fine, not going to touch you.
Yeah.
Just a new one.
Yeah.
Maybe consider not building something that's going to destroy the climate, because it's very clear that is being destroyed. But no, we can't do that. That's going to cause a massive
because the
fucking debate.
Yeah, there was a massive right-wing media campaign which killed that law and made it even more watered down than it was already. And that is that. That is nothing. That is the heating law story.
Yep. And then,
which is now in place, and it's not even going to happen soon. It's going to happen in like 10 years when we're all going to be dead anyway.
Great. So that's good. Second, and also then we now have this budget crisis thing because the coalition wanted to spend some extra money that they had left over in the coffers on the climate, and everyone's like, well, the CDU took it again to the Verfassungsschutz, and not the Verfassungsschutz, the Constitutional Court, the Verfassungsgericht, thank you. I haven't spoken German in a little while. And they were like, no, it's not for Corona. And we originally said the emergency was Corona. You can't say climate's emergency. We're like, okay, cool, fine. Like, who is benefiting from that? Anyway, I don't even have time to go into that. So, second thing, German efficiency, right? We all grew up with that. We had the German kind of, usually East German, like cool clinical teams in like the Mighty Ducks films that were like the ultimate enemy. Anyone who's ever listened to any English language football commentary on the German team, it's always like, oh, they're so calculating and organized and efficient. And I'm like, are you watching the same team? Anyway, even with one simple kind of thing of running elections, Berlin has managed to fuck that up, haven't they, Konrad?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, the same constitutional court decided that we will have to do a rerun of the federal election. We already did a rerun state election, we will also have to do a rerun of the federal election in Berlin, but not the whole of Berlin, which actually was quite good for certain parties, specifically the Linke, because if the whole of Berlin had to re-elect in the federal election, they might have been kicked out of the Bundestag. It's a long story. It's to do with the fact that the only reason the Left Party is in the current Bundestag is because they have 3 directly elected MPs.
Okay.
And the rule is that if you get
I
below
really
5%,
salute you trying to explain the overhang mandate at this stage.
It's not a overhang.
Oh,
man.
no.
It's not that. It's not. It's,
Oh, no, it's not
thing.
the overhang. It's the one before that. It's another special thing.
It's the 5% hurdle. You've heard of the 5%?
I've heard of the
hurdle.
5% hurdle.
So every parliament in Germany, you can only get into it if you get 5% of the vote. Now, the Linke only got 4.5 or 4.8% of the vote in the last federal election, but they still got into the Bundestag with, I think they got quite a few MPs, like 30 or 40, because they had 3 directly elected MPs. So that still counts. If you have 3 directly elected MPs, that still counts. Now, if they have to do a rerun of the federal election for the whole of Berlin, because 2 of those MPs were directly elected in Berlin, Gregor Gysi and Gesine Lurch. If they'd had to re-elect them and they'd lost their seats, then the whole of the Linke would have dropped out of the Bundestag. But that is not going to happen because it is the rerun of the election will be only in, let me get the figures right because I've got them in front of me here, 455 of 2,256 of Berlin's electoral districts have to vote again by February 11th.
Right. And I cannot stress this enough. This is the second time we've done this from the 2021 elections.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, we had the re-election in certain... Was it all of Berlin? No, it was just certain ones of the Abgeordneten.
Well, we had a new...
we
got
fucked
a new...
that up, not on an efficiency level, but on a ideology level, and we voted in a fucking CDU mayor to Berlin.
The second time, yeah. The first time we would have got...
we
would have got Franziska Giffey again. Yeah. The second time, now we have Mayor Kai Wegner, who hates bicycles. He's so angry about bicycles.
Right. Anyway...
okay, anyway, we've got to wrap this up.
Other votes we fucked up.
We've got 10 minutes left of this Zoom call.
Okay, all right. So then I'm not going to talk about that, but we need to fucking do something about Deutsche Wohnen Co. enteignen, bitte. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that was a big story.
The third and final myth. And I do want to be clear that there is still a lot here to be proud of if you are working in the field around education on this, or if you are doing academic work or like actual stuff that is educating everyday people about, or you're working in the field of what's called in Germany the Vergangenheitsbewältigung, the facing and dealing with, the reckoning with Germany's past, particularly National Socialism. A lot of wonderful work is happening there, and I do not want to denigrate that in any way. However, all of that is for shit if it's not, as I see it, playing out then, or informing, or the fucking basis of our decisions as a country, the moral standpoints that our politicians take. And 2023 has really, there was the controversial prosecution of Lena E., who was in a group that kind of she physically attacked Nazis, known Nazis.
She was a left-wing, an autonomer.
Yes.
A left-wing militant.
Yeah, arguably doing some of the anti-fascism work that the German government is failing to do. And this is the point, like Germany cannot seem to deal with this in any reasonable, workable way. We're going after the Klimakleber, the young people from Letzte Generation who are just sticking themselves to roads in peaceful protest, which is their democratic right. We are bursting into their apartments in the middle of the night and raiding them, while doing, like, we can't seem to, or perhaps it's now already too late to deal with it because we failed to actually deal with it. So now what we're seeing is people emboldened to vote for the AfD, who are becoming the most popular or second most popular party in many states. We had a politician in Bavaria, Hubert Aiwanger, embroiled in a huge scandal about being an actual Nazi in school, which is one thing, someone's past, but the way that he handled that, the way that he spoke about that was so disgustingly, fuck you, I don't care, I get to say what I want. I don't, can't remember, I'm not sorry, not sorry. That kind of thing, and we're all like, well, let's vote him in with 4% more for a second term as the vice chancellor vice president, president of Bayern, which is a fucking massive state. And then, we've got Sarah Wagenknecht breaking away from Die Linke, former own arguably dangerous right-wing populist, left-wing populist, I don't even fucking know. And all of this while proclaiming undying and uncritical support for Israel's right to defend itself by decimating Gaza, because otherwise, you have to defend yourself against anti-Semitism, and that's what I
can't add anything to that. You think you've summed up the perfectly. I feel like I felt it pass before my eyes. No.
Well, I feel sad because I love Germany, and maybe I should feel more hopeful, but I don't know. It sucks.
It is very depressing, all that stuff. Everything you said is true, and it is very depressing.
Yeah, but what
is happening here? The blindness to what is happening.
I think that's the thing.
It's
this real deep level of ignorance and a lack of self. I think it comes possibly, I don't know, my whole pop psychology about the trauma of National Socialism on the country's psyche, and how it's so hard to then look at how that might be happening again, or has continued to happen, that's never really been dealt with, and that's been projected onto Israel, and I don't know, it's a whole big fucking mess. Anyway, what's not depressing, Konrad, is that even second time round in this a pretty late recording, very late for you, I'm so sorry. There is no one I would rather get my news from, as much as I resist.
Likewise, there's no one I'd rather talk about the news to than you.
Well, that's lovely. And also, we wouldn't really be doing this. I mean, we would be, but it'd be weird if no one was listening. Maybe it'd be less weird if no one was listening. I don't know. But thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And to our patrons, if you want to... How do they do that? If people want to give us money?
They go to patreon.com, which is a famous website from America, / Megan's Mega Can. And then there's some kind of button you can click on there, which would give us a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Keep us in mega cans.
Yeah, I've had to have 2. I didn't pay for any of them because I've just taken them out of my brother's fridge. But, it's your listening is also
you
wonderful.
Could just listen.
You can also just listen, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we are very, very, very grateful for another year of
Merry Christmas to all our listeners.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Please take care of yourselves.
There's been a spike in viruses around the world, so watch out for that.
Yeah, don't get coronavirus.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.
Megan's Mega Can, German news in English with a cocktail can. The German news, it's quite a test. With Megan's Mega, you're feeling refreshed. Megan's Mega Can, German news in English with a cocktail can. Deutsche Nachrichten sind düster und schwer.
Defy the fear.
Yeah.
It's actually quite a positive message to give to people.
So.
I like to think that we have quite a positive impact on our listeners.
I hope so.
Because we try and get them to defy the fear of listening to the news all day.
I mean, it's better than reading a German newspaper. Surely.
I would definitely recommend listening to our podcast more than reading any German newspaper.
German newspapers barely have pictures. Like fucking, it's just a brick of text.
Oh, yes.
It's
Yeah, and they seem to
awful.
make a virtue of it. They think it's like so great to have no
Oh,
text.
not like you Americans
pictures.
with your fucking
Colour pictures.
decadent pictures in
I
your
know.
newspapers.
Yeah,
What's
like-
that? A crossword puzzle? Oh, no
You have
wonder
to-
you had Trump. Jesus Christ, everyone! Like, there's a middle ground.
You have to concentrate on the news. It's very important. And you have to like keep it there.
Just have a mega.
Have a mega. Give us a picture every now and then.
Just a
and-
wee picture, maybe of,
Yeah.
a diagram.